friends. This is Susie from Gifts from the Heart of Elk Grove, and I'm here with some can-do crafting ideas for you. Now, we know that the holidays are going to look a little different in 2020 because most of us are going to be staying home. So why not create some festive decorations from things you find around the house to make this year's celebration a little special and different? Today, I'm going to teach you a way to make a very simple garland that you can modify in any number of ways to suit your needs. And it's very simple, fun, inexpensive. You can probably make it with things you already have laying around the house. To begin, you're going to need something to hang the garland on or to create the garland on. I would recommend a piece of string, yarn, ribbon. For example, if you want to make kind of a country style garland, you can use something like jute or twine. If you want to make something a little more refined, you can use some white string or maybe some baker's string. I don't know if you happen to have that around the house. Other things you might have around the house that you could use might include some yarn, especially if you have anybody who does knitting or crocheting around the house. You could use some ribbon, like grosgrain ribbon or satin ribbon, anything that you have a large supply of. Another option would be curling ribbon, just like you use for wrapping packages. You could use this as long as you have something that is long enough to cover the distance from point A to point B where you want your garland to go. So you could even use something like a string of Christmas lights. This way, if you make this into a garland, you'll be able to not only plug it in and have it light up, but it's also going to be much more colorful and special than just a plain old string of Christmas lights. So keep that in mind if you happen to have any of those laying around. Now, depending on how large you want your garland, that is how long you'll cut your original string, yarn, ribbon. So say I wanted to make a garland for a dollhouse. Well, a piece like this might be just the right size, or for my Barbie doll's Christmas tree. But if you want to make one that is going to be something, a showstopper that everybody's going to notice at your house when they walk in, you might want to make it 5 or 10 or 15 feet long. It just depends on what your needs are. Cut your original piece of string, yarn, whatever it is you're using to create your garland to the length to meet your needs. Now, once you've done that, be careful if you're making something very long not to get it all tangled up. You may want to carefully wrap it around your hand or wrap it around a paper towel tube, something so that it doesn't get too tangled. Now you're ready to start adding some decorations. And I'm going to show you 2 different options today, but I have a feeling that once you learn this technique, you can look around your house and find all kinds of other things that will make for a really decorative garland. Today, I'm going to show you ways to do this using either ribbon or pieces of scrap fabric. So doing ribbon is pretty simple. What you're going to do is pick out a variety of ribbon colors that you like, that you happen to have at home, or you could even go out and go shopping and get this or order it online. And so depending on what your ability to get out and about are right now, here's an example of a large piece of grosgrain ribbon. If you're using a wide piece, you can cut it up to about 10 inches long to create the dangles, we'll call them, on our garland. The wider the piece of fabric, the longer it can be. The narrower the piece, so here's another ribbon, but it's a little bit smaller. This I probably only want to use about a 5-inch piece. So depending on if you're using wide or narrow, you can certainly mix it up, but I would suggest somewhere between 5 and 10 inches. You don't have to make them all the same. You could make each one individual and different. You could measure them all and be very careful and methodical about the process, or you could just take pieces and tie them on and then trim them off at the end to make them all a similar length. The other good thing is because this is a very simple project, if you mess up, it's okay to take it apart and try again. After you do a few, you'll get the idea of it and you'll definitely have a better feeling for what your needs are on your specific project. So for instance, if I was using this piece of yarn here as my base for my garland, I would then take my ribbon that I have cut and I'm going to do one of 2 things. There's a couple of ways. There's probably more than 2 ways that you can do this, but I'm going to show you 2 different ways. One way is just to take the ribbon, place it under your garland, and then bring the ends up, and you're going to just tie a basic knot just like this. Ta-da! Pull it tight, just like if you were tying your shoes. You might want to even it out a little bit, But as you can see, it's already looking very festive. So once you've done that, you just continue to add more and more of these little tied on ribbons to your garland. And you can decide if you want to plan it all out ahead of time. You can lay out all your cut pieces along your garland and maybe create a pattern. This is a great opportunity for younger kids to practice not only their fine motor skills of tying knots, but also practice patterning skills. Maybe you'll make an A-B pattern. Maybe it'll be red, white, like a candy cane. Or maybe you'll use lots of different colors. You can do it randomly. You can pattern. Any way that you choose is perfect for your garland. That's what makes it so unique. Now, what about if you didn't want to use ribbon? If you want to do something different, a little different look. Say you want a little country look. That was pretty fancy there. How about using that jute and using some torn fabric? Now, some of us, like me, have scrap fabric laying around the house left over from projects that we've done in the past, and that fabric is just too good to get rid of. So you might as well use it for something. Now's the time. This is what you were saving it for. Here's a piece of fabric that I have, and something that you may or may not know, woven fabrics are really easy to rip up into pieces, and they'll actually be even straighter most of the time than if you cut them yourself. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to notch this. And this is another way where if maybe older kids or adults can do the scissors and the notching, and then younger kids can have a lot of fun in what I call the let it rip stage. So I'm just going to cut some pieces. I think I'll make them about this width. Again, you can do any width you want. I would suggest practicing, experimenting a little with some leftover fabric you have that you might not want to use for this exact project. And then you can find out what works best for you and what look you like. Some people like it long and flappy. Some people like it short and tight. You never know. So here I've cut some notches. You can see maybe not quite an inch across, but it really, like I said, it's variable. You can do it however you like. But once you've made these notches, the fun thing is you get to rip it apart just like that. And it makes these perfect strips. I'll do a couple more here just to show you. It's so much fun. Like that and like that. And yes, there will be a few pieces that are a little bit harder to tear than others. So you might need to give it a little more of a trim there, or maybe you just need to start from the other end, just depends. There will also probably be some strings hanging off like this, because on woven fabrics, you have strings that are going across and up and down. And since we're ripping apart some of this, that means there's some extra strings hanging out here that used to be up and down, but now all their other pieces that were holding them together are gone. So you can go ahead and pull those off for a nice ruffled edge look. Give it a little bit of a fray there. Very simple to do. Kind of fun. And then now that you have this nice strip of fabric here, you can take your garland piece, whatever you choose. Like here I'm using this jute, and you can do the same way we did before, where you can tie it on. You put your jute right there, or string right in the middle, and then bring up your bunny ears, as we used to call it in kindergarten. Cross the bunny ears like this, and then take one bunny ear, put it down and through the bunny hole, pull it back up, and ta-da, there you go. There's your knot. Now, I told you I was going to show you another way. I think that's the easiest way, but another way for a little bit different look, maybe a more of a hanging down tassel look, is to take your same ribbon or fabric, whatever it is that you're choosing to use for your garland. Take off all the extra threads that you don't want. This time, you're going to create your loop ahead of time. You're going to make it like this. There you go, just a little loop like that. And then you're going to get your garland again. And there's my knot I made before, but I'm going to move down a little further here. You're going to take your loop. You're going to have the circular part of the loop above your garland here. Then you're going to take your tails that are below the garland. You're going to bring them up on the far side of the garland like this, and put them through the loop that you have created. And then pull them tight. You'll be creating a little knot right down here on your garland. And now, as you can see, that's the back side there. I'll turn it around so you can see the front side. Isn't that cute? A little more of a tassel look there. So that's also a very fun look. Now, some of you are thinking, well, I love how that looks, but I don't have any fabric laying around my house. I'm not a sewing person. Don't worry. Maybe you happen to have some old socks or even an old t-shirt that you could use for this project. For example, this is the arm off of an old shirt from my kids. It has a little paint splattered on it here and there. I think that's probably why it's not one of the ones that's getting worn anymore. What I did was I just cut off this arm right at the armhole. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut right down the seam of the sleeve. That's this sewing part right here. And you don't have to be too perfect about this. In fact, once you start cutting it, once you get your original little cut right in like this, so I can show you right there, make sure that shows on the screen. I've got my little cut there kind of next to the seam. You can just start that whole ripping process again and rip and rip and rip until you get to a point in another seam where you can't rip anymore, and then you can cut it off like that. And so now you have this piece of fabric here, and now this can be, again, cut into strips for your garland. So I'm just gonna cut a little piece here. I'm gonna just, let's see there we go, cut it like that. Now that I've got that cut, I'm gonna rip it. And the nice thing about this fabric is that because of how it's woven, it's not going to unravel the way our woven cotton fabric here did with all the little strings. No strings on this one. And as you'll see, it folds right into a little loop there. This one might be a little longer than I'd usually use for this width. You can always trim them before or after. You can put it on your garland, same way we did this other one right here. We put it behind your garland rope or string thread, and you've got your loop. You bring your tails, you put the tails up through the loop, stick them up on the top. Whoops, there we go, pulling it tight. I may or may not have gotten it. Yep, there we go. That is so soft. That's the back side. It looks like that. And then on the front side, it looks like this. So as you can see, you can also space out your garlands so that the colors are far apart, or you can just slide them right up next to each other and really pack it tight. So as you can see, this is a super simple project that you can do, your family can do. You can make one, you can make a lot, you can share them with your friends, put them in the mail, surprise them with some new holiday decorations. And I think that you will have a lot of fun making something new from old stuff around the house. Hope you enjoyed this idea, and I'll look forward to seeing if you try this. Take a picture of it and email it to Gifts from the Heart of Elk Grove, and we'll put you in our Crafters Corner showing what you created. And don't think that it only has to be for the holidays. You can always use these same techniques to make birthday garlands, Halloween garlands, celebration of any kind, graduation. For example, when my daughter promoted from junior high, I decided to create one for her using her school colors. So that's something else you can do. And when you're all done, you can just wind it up on a spool and keep it for the next time that you need a decoration. Hope you enjoy this idea of recycled garland making, and see you soon.